You know those moments when someone asks you how's your spiritual life going and you're like, good, I think. Because here's the thing, spiritual growth isn't like going to the gym where you can see your biceps getting bigger or track your steps on your phone. It's sneaky, it's subtle, and to be honest, sometimes you don't even realize it's happening until you look back and think, wow, I'm not the same person I was a year ago. By the way, I'm Denise, and this is Faith Bomb, where we talk about real faith for real life. So, today, I want to talk about what actually happens when you grow spiritually, not the Instagram version with the perfect lighting and the fancy Bible journaling, though no shade if that's your thing. I'm talking about the real, messy, beautiful transformation that happens when you lean into your faith. Now, let me tell you a story. A few years ago, I was that person who needed everything to make sense. I mean, I would pray and then immediately start problem solving because, God helps those who help themselves, right? I had to have the plan, the backup plan, and the backup to the backup plan. And you know what happens? Then life did what life does. It threw me a curveball I didn't see coming, and all my plans useless. I remember sitting in my car in this parking space and I just surrendered, not in a defeated way, but in this weird, peaceful way that felt totally foreign to me. That was the first thing that happens when you grow spiritually. You start releasing control. Now, I'm not saying you become this, Zen master who never worries about anything. I still make my grocery lists and plan my week, believe me. But there's this shift that happens where you stop white knuckling your life. You start to understand that holding on too tight doesn't actually protect you, it just exhausts you. You know what I'm talking about, right? It's like when you're teaching your kid to ride a bike and you're running behind them, holding the seat, and at some point you have to let go. Spiritual growth is God's gently prying your fingers open and whispering, I've got this. I've got you. Here's something else I noticed that took me completely by surprise. My prayers started to sound different. I used to pray like I was placing an order to a drive through. Like, hey God, can I get a promotion, a closer parking spot, and can you make sure my kid behaves at church? Thank you. It was all about I wanted and what I needed. But as you grow spiritually, your prayers become more about relationship than transaction. You start talking to God like a friend, not like a vending machine. You find yourself saying things like, I don't even know what to ask for here, Lord. But you do. So I trust you. And here's the wild part. Sometimes you stop praying for things to change and start praying for you to change. You pray for patience instead for people to stop annoying you. You pray for contentment. You pray for wisdom instead of for answers. Your prayer life stops being about getting God to see things your way and starts being about you seeing things His way. And then there's this thing that happens that I don't think people talk about enough. When you start growing spiritually, you develop this hunger for quiet, not silence necessarily, but space. Space to think, to breathe, to just be. I used to fill every moment with noise, podcast while I cooked, music in the car, TV in the background. The idea of just sitting quietly felt uncomfortable, almost wasteful. But somewhere along the journey, I started craving those moments. Now, my morning time before the house wakes up, that's sacred to me. Not because I'm super spiritual or disciplined. But to be honest, some mornings I'm just sitting there with my tea, staring at the wall or in the window. But in that quiet, I hear God. not always in words, but in this sense of presence, this knowing that I'm not alone. Spiritual growth teaches you that God's voice is often a whisper, and you can't hear a whisper in the middle of a noisy, chaotic life. So you start protecting the quiet. You start saying no to things that used to seem important because you've discovered something more important. Now, this next one is probably my favorite thing about spiritual growth, even though it's also the most uncomfortable. You'd think that growing closer to God would make you tougher, right? Like you'd become the unshakable person who never gets hurt. But actually, the opposite happens. Your heart gets softer, more tender. You cry more easily. Happy tears, sad tears, overwhelmed tears. But here's the beautiful paradox. At the same time, you're becoming stronger, not in a I can survive anything because I'm not doing this alone kind of way. You start seeing people differently. That person who cuts you off in traffic, instead of immediately getting angry, you wonder if they're rushing to the hospital. That your friend who said something hurtful, you consider that maybe they're hurting too. You develop this compassion that you didn't have before. And it doesn't make you weak, it makes you brave. Because choosing kindness when you could choose judgment, that takes courage. Forgiving when you could hold a grudge, that takes strength. And speaking of strength, here's something I've realized about my spiritual journey that's been one of my greatest strengths. I've never really been one to compare myself to others, and I don't say that to sound super spiritual or anything. It's just the truth. Don't get me wrong. I'm a curious person. I wonder, what other people's journeys look like, how they experience God, what their spiritual relationship with him feels like. That curiosity is natural. But there was never a point where I looked at someone else's walk and thought, why isn't mine like that? Or I should be doing what they're doing. Because honestly, I was too consumed with my own journey. And I mean that in the best possible way. Now, when you're genuinely focused on where God is taking you, when you're paying attention to what He's teaching you, when you're wrestling with your own questions and celebrating your own breakthroughs, there's just no room for comparison. It's not even on your radar. Not at all. It's like when you're reading a really, really good book. You're not thinking about what book someone else is reading or wondering if their book is better. You're absorbed in your story, turning the pages, discovering what happens next. And you know what? That focus, that beautiful, consuming focus on my own walk with the Lord has helped me advance in ways I never could have it if I'd been distracted by everyone else's journey. Because I wasn't trying to follow someone else's path or replicate someone else's experience. I was just following where God was leading me step by step, day after day. Your journey is yours, and that's exactly how it's supposed to be. God isn't comparing you to anyone else. So why would you? He's not up there with a clipboard checking off boxes. He's watching you with this proud smile, cheering you on your unique, beautiful, messy journey. Spiritual journey isn't about doing more or being more impressive than the person next to you. Sometimes it's about doing less and being more present. And sometimes it's about showing up with what you have, even when it feels small. And remember the story of the widow's offering? She gave two tiny coins, and Jesus said she gave more than everyone else. Not because of the amount, but because of the heart behind it. When you're consumed with your own journey in that healthy, focused way, that's when real growth happens. That's when you stop measuring your worth by external standards and start understanding that God sees your heart. And that's more than enough. And when you're focused on your own journey like that, something beautiful happens. You start seeing joy in places you never expected. Here's something nobody tells you: spiritual growth makes ordinary moments feel extraordinary. I just got back from my August holiday in the Philippines, and I've been sitting in this overwhelming sense of gratitude that I didn't expect. We spent time with my siblings, people I haven't been able to spend quality time with in years because, life, distance, responsibilities, all the things that keep us apart. And you know what blew me away? The bond was still there. The unity, the harmony, the way we just fell back into rhythm with each other like no time had passed at all. We laughed until until our stomach hurts, and I realized this is a gift. This right here, this connection that survives the years and the distance. This is what matters. But here's what really got me. When I came back home and went back to work, I felt this deep peace. Now, don't get me wrong. Work is tiring, it's exhausting some days, but I looked around at my colleagues and I felt this harmony, this sense of gratitude for the people I work with, because I've been in places where work wasn't just tiring, it was draining in a different way, where you'd go home and still be anxious, still be worried about a boss who treated you badly, still carrying all the stress and tension into your personal life. But now, thank God, when I get home, I don't have that knot in my stomach. I'm not replaying conversations or worrying about the next day. Oh, yes, I'm tired, but it's a good tired. And I have peace, real peace. That's spiritual growth showing up in real life. It's recognizing these gifts: family bonds that endure, work environments where you're treated with dignity, homes where you can truly rest. None of it is perfect, but all of it is enough. And that gratitude, that changes everything. Now you start noticing things: the way the light comes through the window, the sound of rain, a stranger's smile. Life doesn't become perfect, but it becomes richer, more textured, more meaningful. Spiritual growth transforms your perspective, and it gives you eyes to see gifts in the middle of the mundane and the extraordinary hiding in the ordinary. And then there's this other shift that might be biggest of all. I used to think that growing spiritually meant having everything figured out. Like the more mature you get in your faith, the more answers you have, right? Well, wrong. The truth is, the more you grow spiritually, the more comfortable you become with mystery. You start to be okay with, I don't know. You stop needing to explain everything or defend God like He needs your help. You realize that faith isn't about certainty, it's about trust. Yes, trust. And those are two very different things. Some of the deepest people of faith I know are the ones who ask the hardest questions and sit with the uncertainty. They're not afraid to say, this doesn't make sense to me, but I still believe. Spiritual growth gives you permission to doubt, to wonder, to wrestle, because that's where intimacy happens. God's not intimidated by your questions. He's actually inviting you into deeper conversation. Thank you, Lord. So, what happens when you grow spiritually? Now, I'll tell you what happens. This is always based in my experience. You become more yourself, the version of yourself that God always saw. You release control and trust more. Your prayers become more what? Conversations. You crave the quiet where God whispers. Your heart gets softer and stronger. You stay consumed with your own journey instead of looking around at everyone else's. You find joy in the most unexpected places, and you become okay with mystery. You become braver and stronger, stronger and softer, and more tender. You worry less and trust more. You find joy in small things and peace in hard things. But here's what I want you to hear: spiritual growth isn't about perfection. It's not about, arriving at some destination where you finally have it all together. It's about the journey. It's about showing up day after day and saying, "Here I am, God. I'm messy and I'm trying and I'm yours." And that's more than enough. So, wherever you are on your journey, whether you're just starting out or you have been walking this path for years, keep going, keep showing up, keep leaning in. Stay focused on where God is leading you, not where He's leading anyone else. Because the transformation happening inside you, that's beautiful. It's real and it's exactly what you need. So, thanks for hanging out with me today. Appreciate your time with me. If this resonated with you, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and let me know in the comments what's one way you have noticed yourself growing spiritually. I'd love to hear your story. Until next time, remember this: you are loved, you are seen, you are never alone. Talk to you soon, and ciao for now.